Welcome to this episode of our podcast where we explore the science of happiness. In everyday conversation, we often use the word happiness to mean momentary joy, but psychologists prefer the term subjective well-being, or SWB. It refers to how people evaluate their lives both emotionally and cognitively. In this episode, I want to unpack what researchers have learned about what makes people happy, why happiness matters for health, how it changes over the life course, and what science says about increasing it. What is subjective well-being?
The concept of subjective well-being was clarified by psychologists Ed Diener and others. It has two main components: the cognitive component and the affective component. The cognitive component is usually measured as life satisfaction, a global judgment about how satisfied you are with your life overall. The affective component consists of experiencing more frequent positive emotions and less frequent negative emotions. In other words, people with high subjective well-being tend to feel more joy, contentment, and interest in their daily lives, and less anger, sadness, or anxiety. Researchers often use validated questionnaires such as the Satisfaction with Life Scale and the Positive and Negative Affect Schedule to measure these dimensions.
Life satisfaction itself is broader than fleeting happiness. Psychologist Ruth Veenhoven describes it as a positive evaluation of your life as a whole, an enduring judgment that integrates momentary pleasures with your sense of meaning and purpose. This means that even if your day-to-day moods fluctuate, your overall satisfaction may stay relatively stable if your life aligns with what you value. That said, subjective well-being is not static, and research shows it can change over the lifespan and in response to circumstances. Why does happiness matter? Happiness is not just a pleasant state. It has profound implications for physical health and longevity. In a 2011 review, Diener and Chan summarized evidence from longitudinal, cross-sectional, and experimental studies showing that people with higher subjective well-being live longer and have lower rates of chronic disease. For example, a large twin study reported that each one standard deviation increase in positive affect or life satisfaction was associated with about an 18 to 20% reduction in mortality risk, even after adjusting for health conditions. These findings are supported by controlled laboratory studies showing that positive emotions enhance immune function and reduce stress hormones. The takeaway is that cultivating well-being is not selfish. It is a vital component of overall health. What influences happiness? Genetics and personality. Genetic differences play a role in why some people are happier than others. Twin studies estimate that about 31 to 40% of variation in life satisfaction is heritable. Much of this genetic influence overlaps with personality traits such as neuroticism and extroversion. People high in neuroticism tend to experience more negative emotions, whereas those high in extroversion tend to experience more positive emotions, and these traits partly explain genetic effects on well-being. Nevertheless, more than half of the variance is due to environmental factors, showing that happiness is far from predetermined. Income, marriage, and children. Economic resources matter for well-being, but only up to a point. Studies show that moving out of poverty and meeting basic needs improves happiness. But beyond a comfortable standard of living, additional income has diminishing returns. A review of predictors of happiness notes that while marriage tends to boost happiness temporarily, the effect tends to fade over time. Having children does not consistently increase subjective well-being and may reduce it due to financial and sleep pressures. In contrast, strong social relationships stand out as a powerful and enduring predictor of happiness. The long-running Harvard study of adult development found that people with close, supportive relationships were happier, healthier, and lived longer. They coped better with stress, had lower blood pressure and better brain function, and experienced less cognitive decline. Community and societal factors. Where we live also influences our happiness. National income, social trust, and the quality of community life explain why people in some countries report higher life satisfaction than others. The World Happiness Report, 2024 shows that the top-ranking countries remain predominantly Nordic nations with high social trust and generous social policies. However, patterns vary. In North America, happiness among young adults has fallen sharply, whereas in Central and Eastern Europe, happiness has increased across all age groups. Globally, negative emotions such as worry and sadness have become more frequent since 2006. But acts of benevolence, helping strangers, have increased, particularly among younger generations. These findings illustrate that societal context and collective behaviors shape our sense of well-being. Age and the life course. A common belief is that happiness follows a U-shaped curve across adulthood. Life satisfaction declines from young adulthood to a nadir in midlife, and then rises again into older age. Evidence for this pattern comes largely from high-income countries, and the size of the midlife dip is comparable to the effects of major life events like unemployment or divorce. However, a 2024 study examining small-scale subsistence societies in low-income countries found much more variability. In some non-industrialized populations, there was no midlife dip or even an inverted U-shape, suggesting that cultural and socio-ecological factors strongly influence age patterns of well-being. Thus, while many people experience a midlife slump, it is not a universal law. Basic psychological needs and self-determination. Beyond material factors, subjective well-being hinges on the satisfaction of fundamental psychological needs: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Self-determination theory posits that feeling free to make choices, autonomy, feeling effective at what you do, competence, and feeling connected to others, relatedness, are essential for well-being. Cross-cultural research shows that when these needs are met, people report higher life satisfaction regardless of culture. In some cultures, religious faith, self-esteem, or communal values also contribute strongly to happiness. Ways to increase happiness. Evidence-based strategies. Science suggests several practices that can reliably boost subjective well-being. While no intervention works for everyone, a few approaches have a solid evidence base. Physical activity. Regular physical activity is consistently linked with higher well-being. A 2025 study of over 1,000 university students found that physical activity has a significant direct effect on subjective well-being and also operates through psychological mechanisms. Exercise reduced rumination, the tendency to dwell on negative thoughts, and increased mindfulness, the capacity to stay present, both of which in turn enhanced well-being. Physiologically, exercise releases endorphins, dopamine, and serotonin and reduces cortisol, which improves mood and stress regulation. These findings suggest that combining exercise with mindfulness training could be a powerful strategy for improving happiness. Mindfulness and meditation. Mindfulness involves maintaining an open, non-judgmental awareness of the present moment. Research shows that individuals who practice mindfulness experience less anxiety and depression and greater emotional regulation. Brain imaging studies reveal that mindfulness strengthens prefrontal cortex networks and reduces reactivity in the amygdala, which helps people remain calm under stress. Mindfulness-based programs such as mindfulness-based stress reduction have been shown to improve both psychological and subjective well-being. Gratitude and kindness. Practicing gratitude, regularly reflecting on and appreciating positive aspects of life, has small but reliable benefits. A 2025 meta-analysis found that gratitude interventions produced modest increases in well-being, Hedges G approximately 0.19, with stronger effects when positive emotions were measured and when multiple gratitude exercises were combined. Similarly, performing acts of kindness boosts happiness. A 2025 intervention study showed that adults who deliberately performed kind acts for others experienced increases in happiness and positive affect and decreases in negative emotions and depressive symptoms. These prosocial behaviors may enhance well-being by fostering social connection and a sense of purpose. Positive psychological interventions. Positive psychological interventions, PPIs, encompass a variety of intentional activities designed to cultivate positive emotions, behaviors, and thoughts. A 2025 meta-analysis of workplace PPIs involving 24 studies found moderate effect sizes for improving subjective well-being, GE equals 0.50, psychological well-being, G equals 0.46, and job performance, G equals 0.42. Interventions delivered face-to-face and in Western contexts were particularly effective. PPIs can include exercises like expressing gratitude, identifying personal strengths, fostering optimism and forgiveness, and combining these with mindfulness. While the evidence base is still growing and long-term follow-ups are scarce, PPIs offer promising tools for individuals and organizations. Nature, contact, and awe. Spending time in nature is another simple way to enhance well-being. A 2025 study of high school students found that contact with natural environments boosted subjective well-being by increasing connectedness to nature and evoking awe. Awe is the feeling of being in the presence of something vast that transcends your current understanding, and it has been linked to increased life satisfaction and reduced stress. Large surveys show that adults who spend at least 120 minutes per week in green spaces are more likely to report good health and high levels of well-being. So whether through hiking, gardening, or even watching nature videos, nurturing a relationship with the natural world can lift our mood and provide a sense of perspective. Social connection. As mentioned earlier, relationships are a cornerstone of happiness. Research across cultures shows that people who feel connected to others, family, friends, community, report higher subjective well-being. Loneliness, by contrast, is a significant risk factor for mental and physical health problems. Acts of kindness, gratitude, and participating in community life all serve to strengthen social bonds and, in turn, enhance happiness. Finding meaning and eudaimonia. Finally, hedonic happiness, feeling good, is only part of the picture. Psychologist Carol Riff emphasizes eudaimonic well-being, which involves living in accordance with deeply held values and realizing your potential. Her model identifies 6 dimensions: purpose in life, autonomy, personal growth, environmental mastery, positive relationships, and self-acceptance. High scorers see purpose and meaning in their lives, feel capable of managing their environment, grow and evolve as individuals, maintain warm and trusting relationships, have a sense of inner autonomy, and accept themselves. People low on these dimensions may lack direction, feel unable to change, struggle in relationships, or dwell on past mistakes. Pursuing activities that align with your values and contribute to something larger than yourself can provide a deeper, more enduring form of happiness. Conclusion. What the science suggests. The science of happiness reveals several key insights. Subjective well-being is a combination of feeling good and judging your life as satisfying. Genetics and personality matter, but they do not seal our fate. Our relationships, community conditions, and lifestyle choices play a major role. Good relationships, adequate resources, autonomy, and a sense of competence are universal ingredients of happiness. Regular physical activity, mindfulness practices, gratitude, kindness, positive psychology exercises, time in nature, and cultivating awe are evidence-based strategies for enhancing well-being. Finally, happiness is not just about pleasure. It includes meaning, purpose, and personal growth. By understanding and applying these scientific findings, we can move toward a happier and healthier life.